How long she gonna
Is
be
that
on
Sharon?
here?
Is that Sharon
Yep,
Berry?
Sharon Berry. That's my auntie.
Okay,
I don't know
hi,
how long she gonna be
Candace
on, but Candace
Auntie.
auntie is on the live. Hey auntie. I don't know, girl. On my page, I always shout out my viewers. So I'm sorry if I'm out of order. I'm trying to
You're
get me a
good.
little
You're
a little.
good.
Okay, girl, look at this. I'm looking so crazy. I'm sorry.
I think we're buffering a little bit. There we go. Oh, okay. We got some extra blush on. Okay. Okay,
Child,
there we go. We're
don't.
good.
I'm not even gonna worry about that. I'm gonna keep it regular. Call it a day. It's been one of those days, and I'm gonna look straight ahead. So I'm
Okay.
sorry about my device, but I don't think I have a way where I can look down and up. So
It looks good. We looking good. We're looking good.
okay,
So
awesome.
so we got so hey, what's up? We are live, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Those of you that are watching us live, we are super excited that you are here. We are excited for those of you that are even watching the replay. We're excited that you are watching and showing us some love on the replay as well. I am going to introduce our special guest tonight. I'm so honored for her to be here with us, and I'm super excited about tonight's topic because one of my favorite things to talk about is co-parenting, and that can be a challenge for people if they don't have the appropriate things in place to make sure that their boundaries are enforceable. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight with my friend, attorney Duvernay, Miss Candace Duvernay.
Hi,
Welcome, welcome,
everybody.
welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome. Put some
you.
hearts, share some hearts, put some hearts up there, and also tell your friends that she is here. Tell your friends that she
Yes.
is
Hey,
here.
y'all. I love me some you because I'm actually on a social media hiatus for the next couple
Okay.
of weeks. I see my boo Jessie. Wink, wink. Hey, Jessica. I see some other people. I'm not gonna shout them out because then they might feel like they can't leave. So
Ah! We need y'all to stay the whole time.
stay
That's
the
all we
whole
need.
time. Stay the whole time. But I do see all my people joining. Hey, people. I see y'all.
Yes, 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 yes. So, Candace, I'm gonna give a short little snippet, but I want you to kind of share with us just some of the things that you see in the space, the family law space, in what you do as a family law attorney. But before I have you do that, I just want to let everyone know, Miss Attorney Duvernay is a fierce. Listen, y'all, she is a fierce litigator, but she's also a calm and shrewd negotiator. Okay, so those of you that are looking for family mediation matter for any of those family law matters, she is the one to help you out. This is helpful when you're negotiating or you need to mediate family legal matters, and not just custody and stuff like that, other family matters as well. But tonight we're talking about custody and financial support. So when you're talking about that with the other parent, sometimes having a mediator is very helpful. In 2019, she was also appointed to the Magistrate Court of Clayton County here in Georgia. So if you're not in Georgia,
Yes.
you wouldn't know, but she is. She served as an associate judge there as well. She is not afraid to fight, y'all. Okay, that's why I love her, because she is not afraid to fight. She about 5'0", but she gonna fight
Five
for
two.
you.
Give me my 2 inches. Give me my 2 inches.
But she gonna fight for you. Yet she's also caring, compassionate, and a tenacious warrior when it comes to advocating for her clients. So I'm super excited to have her on tonight. We're going to talk about some topics that some of you guys have mentioned or have talked to me about, and you have these questions, and y'all know I direct you to an attorney because I'm not an attorney, so I direct you there. But this is a great opportunity for her to just drop some wisdom on us tonight, and I'm super excited to have you, Candace. Tell us a little bit
Awesome.
about what you do.
Well, I thank you for that wonderful introduction. And one thing that I really enjoy is speaking in platforms like this. What I found is a lot of people either they don't ask questions about the legal system. It's been shunned quite a bit. And what I know through my firm, although we are able to fight and ready to go to war if we have to, most people prefer a gentler approach to navigating. Because as you know, and I'm sure you said, I've heard you say plenty of times on different platforms, you've been on my platform before, that co-parenting is important because you're going to be with this co-parent for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's very important that We'll go to war if we have to, but if not, we can do a gentler form if we're working with talking through things or negotiating or mediating, or even if we have to litigate, it doesn't have to be ugly and nasty. So our firm prides us ourselves on making sure that we do whatever the client needs to fiercely advocate, but also remembering that at the very end, there are still going to be children involved that need to have both parents helping them through.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's how I found out about Candace Shaw. I took her mediation class and she was absolutely amazing. If you want to be a mediator, I certainly recommend, if you're still offering those courses, I certainly recommend those courses to you if you're in the Georgia area, anywhere in Georgia, I think.
Yeah. Make your
They can
way.
sort of, yeah, they can take your course and be able to work as a mediator in Georgia, right?
Absolutely. We still offer the course. We do it 4 times a year now. I think when you
Okay.
came, we were doing it a little more frequently, but after COVID, we've been making sure that we reduce the number of classes. So our next one will be, and Jessica can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's going to be in November of this year. So that will be our next training course. But yes, we have to train you as mediators.
Absolutely. All right, so let's jump into some of this good stuff because I know
Yes.
these folks on YouTube, they are ready. Like they be coming for me in the comments on YouTube with this baby mama, baby daddy drama. So let's jump
Come
into
on. Let's get to it. Let me say this.
it.
It is 9:37 on a Monday. And we're going let's keep it spicy, okay? So let's ask those questions. Let's get it in.
So the first question I get often in my line of work, Candace, is emotional abuse, like a relationship that suffered or someone suffered, probably both people suffered from emotional abuse. But now they got a co-parent with that person. What legally what helps, or how are they protected? How can they still be protected even though they have to collaborate concerning the children?
I'm glad you asked that question. A large part of what we do at my firm, a large segment of growing population, is people who are survivors of domestic violence, right? And so a lot of that may include not only physical, but like you said, mental and emotional abuse.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, when you have children involved, often there is not emotional abuse inflicted on those children. Often
Mhm.
there's not physical abuse inflicted on those children. You will be surprised, maybe not because in your line of work, how many parents are going at it with each other, whether it's cursing, fighting, slurs, uh, angry language, physical, but the kids don't know anything about it. Or if they do, it's very, very minimal.
Mhm.
And so what the courts are going to want to know is, has this parent been abusive to the child? Has this parent been abusive in the child's vicinity, in their knowledge? And the answer is no. You're going to be required to continue to co-parent and allow those both parents to raise those children. So here's what we do in those situations. We try to minimize contact with the victim and the survivor. Excuse me, the
Okay.
victim and the abuser,
Mhm.
and we do that in a number of ways. We can put in a TPO order that allows for you to be protected from the other party while still providing provisions for there to be visitation in place, child support, custody, all those other things that the child desires and needs can be put in place while still protecting you, right?
Okay.
Another thing that I always encourage is cut down on, and I don't know if you agree with this, if we girls, so if you want to disagree, let you know we can keep it real.
Yes.
I believe in limiting unnecessary contact. I know
Absolutely.
for counselors and psychologists, therapists, you all are encouraging open communication. But the
Mhm.
reality is, if there is a history of abuse, there has to be a trust in order for there to be effective communication. So
Absolutely.
that's why I'm saying to you, if there is an ability, or if we can maybe right the ship,
Yeah.
get things back in order. But until then, I would encourage to limit communication to either written
Mhm.
or so email or text, something
Mhm.
that's written clearly. And I won't put a lot of extra language. Your kid's gonna be ready at 5. Nope.
Mhm.
Are you coming this weekend? Are you paying your child support? And leave it at that. I think
Absolutely.
limiting contact is gonna make it better.
Absolutely. And you definitely make a great point. You know, we want the rainbows and, the cotton candy type of relationships, but the reality is y'all aren't together for a reason. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because there was some level of abuse involved, that it's hard to get past emotionally. Sometimes it takes people months and years to get past that and even heal from that. and that other
Right.
person may not be healing. They may still be abusing other people, so
Exactly.
they may still feel like you deserved it, and they're going to keep using this contact that they can have with you through the kids to inflict that pain. So
Right.
I certainly agree with you on setting some healthy boundaries so that you can still be emotionally available for your children as well. Speaking of that, though, with the visitation, the type of visitation, the structure of the visitation, is it ever at all possible where visitation, like you pick them up from school, you drop them off at school, so we don't even got to see each other? Is that
Absolutely.
something? Okay.
That is something that we put in place. I'll be honest, courts are going to be wanting to promote co-parenting where you're speaking more frequently, you're communicating, where you're dropping the child off at school or dropping the child off at home and picking them up in that place.
Mm-hmm.
However, we found that if you could drop them off at school and pick them up at school, it doesn't really interrupt the flow of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can pick the child up at school. It's no different than mom or dad picking them up any other day of the week. You
Mm-hmm.
drop them off on Monday, it's no different. And so what I always, and you know this from just us working together before, the courts are going to look at what's in the child's best interest
Mm-hmm.
when they're determining custody, visitation, and child support.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the threshold. What is in the best interest of the child? So, parents not getting along, parents not liking each other, new girlfriend saying this and that. The courts are going to cut through all of that to determine what's in the child's best interest. And quite often, that is keeping everything as smooth as possible. Now, if the child, people often ask, what about when there's no school in place, right? Or what about if it's a holiday? Then we
Mm-hmm.
often suggest meeting in a place that's public
Mm-hmm.
where the kids can actually have a calm transition. So
Right.
people are like, I want to meet at the police department. Why? Unless there is a for real, like physical threat of harm, you can meet. There's plenty of places that are surveilled. Quick Trip is a good place. I know plenty of people do that because guess what? You can get the kids, walk them in, get them a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Ice cream is there, a nice
Mm-hmm.
little slushy,
Mm-hmm.
a
Love
candy
it.
bar. They are
Yes.
always surveilled. It's heavily police, a heavy police presence, and it's always recorded if you want to have something there. But it doesn't feel very stifling like a police department.
Right.
Another suggestion we often say is somewhere like a McDonald's or Chick-fil-A because
Mm-hmm.
they can get a nice little meal and then they can go play on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to include food, they can meet at a park.
Mm-hmm.
What will make the kids feel less tense about having to
Mm-hmm.
get their book bag in or their bag and go with mom or dad? And that's what you might want to consider. And a lot of parents don't even think about that because they've always either met at the house and thought about it or gone to the police department because they have this fear. And I don't once again I'm not being loose about that. I know there are some people
Mm-hmm.
that are really escaping very violent
Mm-hmm.
families, but that's not
Mm-hmm.
most people.
Right. Right. Someone, I think Chris is on here, of course, supporting her
Hey.
sister. She said there's an echo, so if you can turn down your
Okay.
Instagram device a little bit, and
I
that
turned
may
it all
be
the
what
way down. Maybe I
you turned
should
it over
mute.
there.
If I mute Instagram, will you still be able to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I
Let's
don't
see.
know if Instagram will be able to hear you, so it may have to be a little bit of an echo for us to
Okay.
make this
I
work.
did push. I did as much as I could on the
Is it
mute.
all the way down? Let me make sure mine is
Yeah.
all the way down too. Yeah. Okay, well, we're here. So we are here. We are here. I hope it's not bad, y'all. I hope y'all are getting the meat of what Candace is saying. Just giving you some extra ideas to make the transition or to make this process in the best interest of the kids, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. So when you mentioned the emotional trauma that's happening between the two adults and it's not in front of the kids, and so so now we still got a co-parent because the kids wasn't part of the trauma. um when visitation is happening, one of the questions I received was, when visitation happens, that other parent or either parent, and as a matter of fact, they have access obviously to the kids. So if that child comes back and says, mommy kept asking about you, or mommy keeps saying this and this about you, or daddy is saying this about you, what rights do the parents have to try to keep that down, when it concerns the kids?
Okay. And I think I figured out how we can get the echo done. When you were just talking just now, I muted it on my Instagram. So maybe if you mute your Instagram while I'm talking,
Oh,
maybe that'll work.
okay.
So we can just mute one and then tag team mute it.
Got it. Got
Maybe
it.
that'll
How
work.
did you
I don't.
mute? I don't know how to mute.
It's okay.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Maybe that'll help. I don't know. So anyway, so that's a great question. Often what I've found is when there are children who are being influenced, where daddy's asking, "Who are you dating?" or mommy's asking, "Who's spending the night?" What you can easily do is just put paperwork in place that is very clear that neither parent will talk about either parent in front of the child unless they are in a disparaging way or in a prying way. Neither parent will ask children about information related to the other parent's household. I know
Hmm.
that seems very trifling and why do we have to petty to put it down? But the reality is, when you put it in writing, once the judge signs it, is no longer just good advice. It is now the order of the court.
That's
And
good.
once that order is violated, now you have legal ramifications. You can go to the court and say, look, this parent is violating your order. We have proof that it's affecting the child because now they're coming home, sneaking, trying to see what I'm doing. We've seen the children trying to write notes or go back and tattle or tell mom and dad what's going on. And so they're
Mm.
using the child, for lack of a better term, as a spy.
Yeah.
And so if that's happening, if that's occurring, then you can put a stop to that by making sure that your paperwork is very clear. Now, here's the problem. People don't want to go to court and get paperwork.
Right.
They want to go to you, which is great. And I think we utilize you, co-parent counseling, psychologists, therapists, we use you all as a support. But people who have not quite crossed the threshold and are not able to effectively communicate and parent together, a very good leveling of field to level the playing field or tool to level the playing field rather is the court system.
Hmm.
That's just like Jessica said, kids will talk, you know.
Yes.
And here's another thing. I'm glad Jessica said that. Sometimes kids are smarter than we think.
Yes.
So your parent, the other parent may not be asking about you. Little
Yeah.
Johnny may just be saying, you know what, my mama has a new friend, you know.
Yes.
And then daddy is thinking, oh my goodness. Or my mom is just saying A, B, or C. Or my dad is just asking this. And really, and so I always caution parents who do come to me and say he wants to know what's going on. I always ask them, how do you know that's credible? I don't believe the
Mm.
child is lying, but how do we know that that's actually true? Because before you pay me a whole lot of money and go in front of the courts and do all this, let's make sure that this is actually a true issue and concern. And if it is, we got your back.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And kids again, they want approval. Throughout this entire process, this transition with their parents, they need approval, and sometimes we let's just be honest, the parents aren't prioritizing the kids so much during that time because they're trying to deal with their own stuff. So yeah, they're looking for validation. Am I helping out mommy by being the spy at daddy's house? If I'm helping out daddy, those types of things. So certainly sometimes it's not even provoked. It's just we're volunteering information because I need to be on daddy's side. So totally get that. But it's good to know that, especially if you're getting this parenting plan together, that you can include language in that order that can stop it before it happens or stop it in its tracks because it's probably happening before y'all even get the paperwork in anyway. So that's good. That's really good to know. Let's talk a little bit about fathers' rights because, like I said, these guys on YouTube really I know a lot of attorneys are talking to fathers a lot right now, but it's still a big deal. Fathers, a lot of fathers feel like they are at a disadvantage when it comes to custody of their children. What are some things that most people don't know about fathers' rights?
Excellent question. The reality is, most fathers are at a disadvantage if they're having their children outside of marriage. At least that's the case in Georgia. In Georgia, if you are a father to a child, to somebody who you're not married to, and you have not taken legal steps to legitimate that child,
Mm,
then the reality is you and I have as much rights to that child as that father does. That's
wow.
wild to say out loud, but it's true.
Wow.
He doesn't have a right to take that child to and from school. He doesn't have a right to take him to the doctor. He doesn't have a right to enroll that child into any kind of sport.
Mm.
He doesn't have a right to visit them every week or every other week. He literally only has an opportunity to pay child support because Georgia courts will allow a mom to get child support for a child who does not have a dad who's gone through the legitimation process. So, but he doesn't have a right to inherit from that child. That child does not have a right to inherit from him. Now, the beautiful thing about Georgia is that can be fixed. And so I don't like the idea of this, she won't let me see my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what steps have you taken
Mm-hmm.
to get your rights enforced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't start off with rights, but you can file a petition for legitimation, which is telling the courts, hey, I want this child to be declared my legal son, and I want him to, or daughter, I want him to be able to inherit from me. I want them to be able to, and I want to be able to inherit from them. That's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can say, okay, now that I've got the legitimation done, I want the child to be able to visit with me. I want the child to be able to live with me. I want custody, right? Once you get the legitimation done, now you can ask for custody and visitation and also child support, whether you want to receive it from the other parent or you have to pay it. So you don't start off with any rights, but that doesn't mean you never can have any rights. And I will say the Georgia
That's
courts
good.
have turned a corner, and you're seeing more and more now fathers getting full custody, primary custody, sole custody. You're seeing a lot more leveling the playing fields once dads do take that step to be involved, but you do have to take a step, and that's just the reality. And
Gotcha.
before you even ask me if it's in the comments, no, signing the birth certificate does not count. There was a short window of time. Attorney Fair was on here briefly. She's a walking Civil Procedure Act. She probably could tell you the specific date it started and ended. There was a short window of time where there were these forms that dads were able to sign at the hospital in addition to the birth certificate that gave them legitimation. But they don't do that anymore, and it was a very short window. And even then, if you legitimated, you still had to go through extra steps to get visitation and custody. So if your child is at least 3, 4 under, or if you've never gone through the legitimation process, you can go ahead and move it forward.
Gotcha, gotcha,
Mhm.
gotcha. I'm not even about to open up the because that can be a can of worms. I'm not going to open that up. Not tonight. So we got to have you back
Yes.
to delve into that because there's a lot of questions surrounding that. So I'm not gonna go there. But I do want to because I did get a couple of questions this evening or this afternoon actually about grandparents' rights. What rights do the grandparents have if the people are fighting and so they're fighting so much the grandparents can't see their grandkids because he not using his visitation, he hasn't legitimized the child, those types of things. What rights do grandparents have, or if any?
So you know if the biological father doesn't have automatic rights, then grandparents got a whole nother threshold, right?
Yes.
So grandparents do have limited rights, right? In Georgia, grandparents can petition to have visitation with children, grandchildren, I should say, if
Mm-hmm.
they can show that it will be in the child's best interest to have a relationship with them. And recently, in the past couple of years, there has been a shift that has allowed certain grandparents to be able to actually move for custody, but it's through a specific statute that allows any third party to petition the court for custody and visitation with a child that they've proven to have a vested interest in. So in the
Okay.
Black community, a lot of times it's not uncommon for an auntie to raise a child or a cousin to live with a great aunt
Mm-hmm.
forever,
Mm-hmm.
or for a grandmother to take
Mm-hmm.
the baby from their child at 16 and raise that child like their own. And so what the laws have done is shifted and allowed grandparents to actually petition the court, but it's not just for grandparents. I mean, honestly, if you took in somebody that was a little, I know you mentor young girls, and say you took in a mentee at the age of 8 and you took care of her and you bought her clothes and took her to the doctor and all those things, and you can show that you are solely responsible for her, you could petition for custody through a third party statute. So there are some opportunities for grandparents to assert custody and visitation, but it's not a right. A right is something
Gotcha.
that's inherent, you know,
Okay.
like, and so I don't like the idea about grandparents' rights or, you know, father's rights, mother's rights, because the reality is, I guess mothers have the best because you got the baby is yours until the dad, legitimates, unless you all have the baby in wedlock while you're married.
Right. So, well, when you mentioned that, that also kind of sparked another another interest in terms of, in the, of course, in the Black community, godparents. You know, if the grandparent can petition the court for custody, can godparents petition the court for custody if there's you know, obviously if the situation isn't in the best interest of the child, and they have a vested interest where they've basically taken care of the child just isn't biologically theirs.
So the equitable caregiver statute, which is what I was talking about earlier, that allows a third party who's not a non-parent to seek custody. It is actually it's very recent. So there's not a ton of case law on it. And it's very, most lawyers are going to try to liberally apply it until we get some guidance from the court. So I would argue, based on that scenario, if the godparent is fully and solely responsible or primarily responsible, not just picking them up on the weekends or not just paying a bill here or there, but this is how this child lives and breathes and makes it in the world, I would argue that they have a good standing to bring that case before the court. Now, I've seen judges say, grandparents, all you're doing is what grandparents do. You know, you buying shoes or you paying for this, helping out the mom and dad. You're just doing what grandparents do. We're going to give the kids to the daddy who they've never seen. And that was a heartbreaking day, right? But I've also seen judges say, yes, you deserve to have this baby because you've been helping. So it's a hard hill to climb. So you got to make sure that you have an attorney who's ready and understands the nuances of it. But to answer your question, yes, there is an ability for it to happen in the courts, but it's going to require a lawyer that really knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. So that would be different than adoption.
Yes. So adoption is where you're literally saying, I'm going to take this child and it's going to become my legal child. Okay. And it would only be different in the sense, once you get custody rights, you have the same rights as you would if you were to adopt. But the only difference is the adoption is your baby, right? That's your child. Custody realistically can be changed at any time. It can be modified at any place. We haven't talked about guardianship before, but sometimes people that's like the offshoot of custody that could be revoked at any time. So adoption is a more solid, secure way to make sure that you and your family are intact long term.
Okay. Well, guardianship, now we open up another can of worms, because if like, say for example, if it's a temporary situation,
yep.
Where, somebody's on Alzheimer's or they're sick or something like that, and that child obviously needs routine care, consistent care, and things like that. So would guardianship probably be the better way to go than trying to go for custody? Okay.
It's going to be shorter. It's going to be cheaper. And really, if you have it, like you said, I might be funny, but people go to jail or they go to the hospital for a couple of weeks, or they're going overseas for deployment. Guardianship is a easier way to get the child covered if you don't want to do a long-term shift. So yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. I'm sure that's answering a lot of questions. We have someone on here. Basically, that I guess that was one of the questions someone on here on Facebook asked. Regarding, and that's good to know. Like I said, with sometimes people see custody as such a grueling battle, and there may be some other ways to kind of go about a short term, to meet a short term need until the parents can get it together.
Yes.
Kind of get it
now,
together.
The only thing about guardianship, generally, there still has to be a determination that is in the child's best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to do contested guardianship, then you may as well go for custody, to be honest. Okay. Guardianship usually is when people are in agreement. So, like, okay, I agree that I'm going to go and, preach the word in Zimbabwe for 3 months. Mm-hmm. Chris and Janae, if she's still watching, will you watch my little boys? I know she would say yes, right? But she's going to want to make sure that she has to be able to take them to the doctor, mm-hmm, check them in and out of school, mm-hmm, sign them up for baseball or football. Mm-hmm. And so guardianship will give her, Jessica said she can't hear me. I'm sorry, Jessica. What I was saying was I muted myself.
Oh.
I'm trying to work with the technology, baby. Okay, what I was saying, Jessica, and whoever else was listening on Instagram, I apologize, was that guardianship is one of those things that is most effective if the parents or if the primary guardian or the primary custodian agrees. And I was using the example of my sister. If I were to go overseas for 3 months to preach the gospel or whatever, and I
Mhm.
wanted Kristen to kind of keep the kids, the boys, I have two boys with her. Let's say they couldn't go with my husband, right?
Mhm.
Then they
Mhm.
want to go with her.
Right.
Then she could sign up and say, okay, I agree, but make sure that you give me, um, sign off the guardianship so I can be able to take them to the doctor, get their shots, take them
Mhm.
to school, check them in and out, and do those things temporarily. But there are
Mhm.
some people they get guardianship and they never go for custody. They just keep it in place forever. It just really depends on what your family needs.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Now, what about, and I think this is going to be my last question. We're going to wrap it up. But what about, because, we can do this all day long. I could do this with
I'm
you all day
enjoying it, but
long.
I understand it's getting late.
But so what about so let's say, for example, the father gets remarried or married or whatever. And, it's just not in the best interest for well, or the stepmom or bonus mom, whatever. She wants to have rights or custody, some level or form of being able to do all those things because she's doing it anyway. And but she doesn't have legal rights to the child, but the mom isn't available really to take the child to their doctor's appointments and do all those things. Can that stepmom go for um, custody or guardianship?
So, a bonus parent, stepmom, stepdad, they could go for custody through, like I said, the equitable caregiver statute that I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's one
Mm-hmm.
way to go about it. Sometimes, very rarely, you'll see a biological parent terminate their rights,
Okay.
and then the step parent or bonus parent can step up and do what's called a step parent adoption. I do not do adoptions. I have an excellent referral for that, referral for that. But that could be an opportunity for there to be a step parent adoption if the other parent has terminated their rights or given their rights away. But what I always encourage bonus parents to do is to me, I don't know if you're gonna agree, if the parents are there are still two parents there, I would encourage them to try to encourage co-parenting between the biological, because the more love you're not going to lose by having more love,
Right.
right? You will see, and I know you've seen it, the new woman or the new man um trying to push me out. That's going to breed resistance,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've even
Mm-hmm.
had somebody say, just because he got a new wife doesn't mean my baby gets a new mom. And that's true, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so I would say the to me, the mom would have to be really, really, really down in order for a step parent to step in and ask for custody. Just being honest, and there would have to be a lot of things that would have
Okay.
to go forward before then. So
Gotcha.
I would just
Gotcha.
send them to you to counsel them and coach them. Y'all go see Coach Chanel talk about that. That's what I would do.
Yeah, yeah. I've had them all around the conference table, like, okay, let's work
Yes,
this out. Yes, absolutely. So,
absolutely.
this lady, she mentioned that a foster care situation where the grandchildren are in foster care, and I think you answered this earlier. So, Latoya, you may want to scroll back, but with the child now being in the system, in the foster care system, if a grandparent or auntie, godparent, whoever wants to step up and say, "Hey, I want to petition for custody," is that because they're obviously in the foster care system, is that valid for someone to say, "Hey, I want to do this," or would they have to at that point go through the adoption process?
So the foster care system is usually put in place through like a defect situation or something like that in
Mm-hmm.
juvenile court. In those kind of deprivation cases, the courts are really going to look to try to reunify the parent with their child. So when foster care is never intended to be a long term goal, I know the foster care system is going through so much right now.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to the social workers and everybody involved in that system. I'm not here to demonize that system in any
Yeah.
way, but that's never been here to be a long term solution.
Okay.
Because of that, though, parents in the foster care system get a lot of opportunities to get their stuff together before somebody can swoop in. So if you have a grandparent, for instance, I think you said Latoya, who's like, I really want to help my granddaughter or my grandson get them out of the system, she may want to consider going the guardianship route.
Okay.
If the parents would agree, because that's a short term ability to get them out of foster care, get them in grandparents' care, where grandparents can help them out and get them through. The
Okay.
other option that we talked about earlier would be to petition the court for custody. However, if grandparent has not already been actively providing, because remember I said earlier, you have already been that staple for the child. If
Mhm.
that were the case, they likely would not have been put in foster care. I don't know anything about the situation, but
Right.
if they're in foster care, it's probably unlikely that the grandparent or has been actively involved providing shelter, food, clothing for that child. So they would likely not be able to have standing to ask for custody under that statute we talked about earlier. So
Gotcha.
guardianship would be the easier way to go unless the parents were willing to agree to give some kind of custody over.
Okay. She mentioned that her son was killed, so the I guess the mom and the boyfriend was abusing the child or the children, and so that's how the grandchildren ended up in foster care. So she doesn't have her son is the one that's connecting her to the grandkids.
Right.
So
I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that.
yeah.
I would encourage you if you want to call us, maybe we can help you out
Yes, for
with that.
sure.
But there are some options that you may have to reunify you with your grandbabies, particularly if they're in the system and they've not been placed with anybody else family wise. We may be able to get you some kind of help for those babies. Or at minimum, if their dad is gone, I'm so sorry about your loss.
Mm,
At minimum, if we can get you some kind of grandparent visitation, because that Chanel may be an opportunity where we can reunify the children with somebody who is connected to their father.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing.
I've enjoyed
This has
it.
been awesome. This has been awesome. This has been awesome. You know, I always enjoy collaborating with you, Candace. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and just dropping so many golden nuggets. I know a lot of people that that are watching live and that will be watching will be blessed by just you sharing your wisdom and experience with us. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing that. Dropping that in. Y'all go follow her on her social media. If you're on Instagram,
Yes.
follow her. If you're
I
on
thought I had it
Facebook,
up, but really quick, two things
yeah.
I want to plug. My Instagram pages, they're under construction right now. Like I said, I love you, so I'm here. But come October 1st, you're gonna see a lot more content. So you can follow Hill-Duvernay. That's our firm's page, or you can follow Candace Alyn, and that's my name, CandaceAlynn. We'd love to have you follow us as we keep going to the next level. And it's been wonderful. Always great to see you, Chanel. You're doing amazing work. We definitely referred clients to work with you. Some of them go kicking and screaming, but we definitely referred clients to work with you. And I think we're all here to collaborate and help these families get better in the long run.
Absolutely. 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 So y'all go follow her. Latoya, you definitely need to follow. What on Facebook? Where are you on Facebook? I
Hill,
think she's
Duvernay, and
okay.
Associates.
And associates. I'm just typing it in the comments for you,
Oh,
Latoya.
thank
So
you.
so go and follow her. And hopefully, if you're in the Georgia area, of course, you always know that she can be of assistance to you, and we hope that you can get back to your babies, your grandbabies, because family is everything.
Yes.
Healthy family is everything. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you so much, Candace, for your time. I'm
You're
gonna let you
welcome.
get back to doing what you love.
I know my phone has been blowing up.
I know, I'm sure.
It costs to be the boss, but I'm thankful. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good evening.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, Candace. Take
Thank you.
care.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.